today we have Kim. She's working on closing out her novel. So if you remember, we talked about doing the continuity and value delivery sheet, which is a way of making sure that there is enough story for each chapter, not too much, not too little, making sure delivering the value. And in this case, what's most important is going from the peak to the end in a satisfying way. So that's what we're going to work on. I thought we would start off with an MCS just to remind us all of Kim's story and then dig into her sheet and go through it for those reasons. So whenever you're ready, Kim.
All right, so a long time ago, Ammit was the devourer of unworthy souls in the Egyptian afterlife. But now she's a myth and must reside in the realm, which is a spiritual afterlife for all gods and monsters and demons of mythology. It might not be so bad if she had some sort of support structure, but the gods do little to make her feel accepted due to their long-standing prejudice against demons. So feeling worthless, feeling powerless, and very lonely, Ammit meets the mysterious goddess Lamashtu, who claims she wants to help all demons gain respect among the gods, but needs Ammit's help in order to do so. Desperate for purpose and community, Ammit joins her. It starts off well enough. She meets some demon friends and learns she is way more powerful than the gods have ever led her to believe. She learns that her soul-devouring abilities don't just work on mortals, but they work on gods too. Unfortunately, she doesn't realize that Lamashtu only wanted to exploit this newfound power until it is way too late. So, desperate to prove to the realm, and more importantly herself, that she is not a monster, Ammit uses her voice rather than her destructive power to convince the gods and demons to work together to fight against Lamashtu's tyrannical rule. Their fight is successful. Lamashtu is defeated. But more importantly, it shows that the gods and demons can coexist together in the realm, and Ammit learns of her self-worth and her purpose. The end.
Very good. That is a model MCS. 1 minute and 35 seconds.
Yep.
What makes it a model is she's sort of just telling it, right? There's just no hiccups. There's no searching for memory. There's no trying to shove things in. There's no pulling things apart. It's just a nice, easy telling of the story. But as always, let's ask Kim a question. Justin, do you have a question for Kim?
I don't know, Kim. I think this is getting pretty close to airtight at this point. I mean, yeah, to be honest, and I'm really trying to think. I mean, I had some stuff. I mean, just looking at your outline that you wrote over here, and like knowing the stuff that goes into it, I guess is a different thing, right? But like, I think just knowing about like the maybe a little bit more Anubis could be something, only because like of Ammit's relationship with Anubis is so central in this book. I felt like maybe if there was space to mention Anubis, that feels important enough to figure out a way to include. But that's just me personally, just because it's like, you know, her tie with the gods and why, you know, her place with the gods was so, you know, particular versus other demons and, you know, everything like that. That's really my own thing. I guess that's more of a suggestion than anything, but
so the way to deal with this kind of suggestion is we have to weigh it, right? Because we're at the time limit, if we put Anubis in, it's going to force something else out. So that's the decision Kim would make with respect to this question. CC, do you have a question for Kim? Or not?
Can you remind me how like you're explaining they defeat Lamashtu? Like I guess it's the peak. Because I was like, I think in my head I was getting slightly distracted, but what I know of the outline, like of what I read. And so remind me again what it is.
Good question.
So in the story, you're
I think
asking?
in more in the MCS like lines, because I was like looking for a specific thing, and then I don't know if I heard it.
Yeah, so I really just summarized it as like, because Ammit has this destructive force, but instead of using that, she uses like her voice, like speaking to the gods and kind of finding a more peaceful way to join them together rather than by force or threat with her power, because she doesn't want to use that. So it's more just speaking and showing them all like what type of monster Lamashtu really is.
Okay.
So let's try to repeat that as a single sentence. Ammit.
Yeah, so I said using her voice rather than her destructive power. Ammit convinces the gods and demons to join together against Lamashtu's tyrannical rule.
And they
Win.
win. Good. So Justin, what's the peak of the story?
I think for me, I mean, again, I don't know. I'm 0 for 2 right now with these things, but like me,
1 for 3. Let's try to bat.
this is tough because this is the difference between me reading the outline. I would say, knowing this whole story, that it's when they beat Lamashtu and she's asked to devour again and she doesn't, because like that being like a unification thing of like, no, we're not making the same mistakes again. We need to usher in a new age. That feels like the peak of decision in this book.
What do you think, Kim?
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's hard because like that, I guess for me, because that comes at like the very end. But when like Anubis and Ammit and Isamu are all kind of like together after the burning of the library and they're trying to come up with the plan, I go back and forth between Anubis basically saying, well, why don't you just devour her soul? And Ammit's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not a weapon. And I didn't know if maybe that was the peak because she realized like she has the authority to change the way this hierarchy is, and she isn't going to be a weapon anymore. So that was like her decision. And that happens in like roughly chapter 21. So I don't know. Like, I don't know because
Well, as a piece of story theory, this is really important, right? The peak is exactly what Kim wants it to be, because that is what is going to give the story meaning. It's going to be the lesson that she transfers from her mind to the readers, right? In addition to all the other good stuff it does. So if that's her peak, that's it, right? That is the peak. And then the only question is it transmitted successfully to the readers, right? And we can sort of, it's a big problem for everybody, right? Well, it peaks here, and then it peaks here, and then it peaks over there, right? All these things have to work together to have a single peak. And the good news here is Kim knows what the peak is. So let's talk about ways of verifying this, right? So is it a foregone conclusion that they will beat Lamashtu? To me, the answer is probably yes, which means that's not the peak, right? The peak indeed comes when Ammit decides how she's going to handle Lamashtu, and it's not going to be what she normally does, devour the gods, right? She's going to use her charm, I guess, her persuasive power, her intellect, something other than this magic power. You know, it's kind of like, this is a bad analogy, but it's kind of like Batman refusing to kill the Joker, right? Joker, you wanted me to kill you? Not going to do it. We all know Batman's going to win, right? And then the question is whether Batman is going to succumb, I guess. It's the same kind of flavor. And so because she has this set in her mind, the only question is it delivered properly? So that's what we want to investigate in this continuity and value delivery sheet. I guess the issue is slightly, was it in the MCS? And I heard it. CC, did you hear it, or was it missing?
The
peak.
Yes, I heard. Well, I didn't register it as the peak in the moment, like, because I think I was looking for the plan of how they, like, the bad guy, not the bad guys close in, but like the gathering the team and like how do we defeat the bad guy. But now that we've just had this discussion, I always think of the peak as like the no point of return 2.0, because they've like learned their lesson, if that makes sense, and they're going in with a new perspective into the end.
Yeah, definitely. So the thought is, you know, we have sort of a set of expectations that we bring to the story. You can call it a formula, right? The peak is when the superheroes gather together and they have a final battle and the villain loses, right? Our expectations, and this is what you have to work against, Kim, when you're doing your MCS, are leading us astray in the case of this story. You are subverting the expectations by having the hero refrain from using their power. So you got to think a little bit about that. I still think it was a model MCS, but at the same time, the peak could be a little bit clearer, right? The fact that in the ultimate moment when Lamashtu is on the floor and she has whatever, her devourer set up to devour, she refuses. And instead she does this and they win. That's not necessarily the way you have to do it, but that's a way of contextualizing and emphasizing the peak in the MCS so it's really, really clear to your audience what her actual victory is. Not by might or by power, but by spirit alone. I can't remember what the biblical saying is. Okay, so now let's work on getting that peak into the writing itself through the mechanism of our spreadsheet, which in this case is a table, which is perfectly fine. So our first goal is to try to identify the chapter where the peak occurs. And you guys read this, so anyone nominate a chapter for the peak? CC or Justin?
So the way, I mean, but this kind of goes to where I read it before, was that even though it's the second to last chapter, the way you wrote it, Kim, like it feels like a peak, like it being like Lamashtu, Inanna pins Lamashtu, commands Ammit to devour her soul, but Ammit refuses. And like that feels like the highest point of like not only action going on around everything, but also Ammit's final decision, not only like to Anubis, but like in front of all the gods and all the demons. Like that just feels like the most impactful decision of the book to me. And that's in 29, but that's where it's just in the chapter for me right now, or in the outline.
Stacey, what do you think? What chapter would you point to as the peak?
I don't think it's 29. I think 29 is like a conclusion. Like it's the ending. Everything, like it's the plan coming into fruition. I think I'm looking for it, but it's I want to say it's 21 with their plan taking place, because now that they have this plan, and I'm thinking it more from a character perspective, less of a plot perspective of, at this point, Ammit has decided to do things the right way versus the wrong way. She's not following the status quo of what everyone has expected of her. And I do think it lends itself to a little bit of the humor of what their plan is, with like the screen that's gonna expose her.
So if one vote for, I understand, I'm not criticizing either your reasoning. And we have one vote for 21, one vote for 29. I was kind of drawn to 27, I think. I'm sorry, 28. So we got a little bit of an issue here. So let me ask this, Kim. Did you sort of just settle on that as a peak in this conversation, Ammit's refusal, or has that been your idea all along? And either way is fine.
Ammit's refusal has been my plan all along. But what's funny is I went back and forth when I was writing this and what the peak is between those 3 chapters that you guys all brought up. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but I was like, well, it's either 21 or 28 or 29, and you guys all brought that up. So yeah.
So in retrospect, which one do you think is the peak?
I think 21 is because and I failed to put this point in there. Maybe if I put this point in there, it would have been better. But Anubis brings up, like, you were the embodiment of justice. Your whole role, if you have this power, your whole role was to devour unworthy souls. And who's more unworthy than Lamashtu? So Ammit's deciding not just to be a bringer of peace, but she's completely disregarding her old past and everything, and just being like, you know what, maybe this just isn't who we are. This isn't who we are anymore, and we can choose to be something different. And I don't want to be the devourer anymore. And so I feel like 21 was like a complete shift in her perspective and her understanding who she is as an individual. So for me, the peak was 21.
So it's 21, but not written as it is here. 21 written.
I could have written 21 better. Yep.
What would you have changed about? So
I would have added Anubis telling her, you're the devourer, devour Lamashtu's soul. That's the plan. And Ammit saying, no, that's not who I am anymore. And that's not who I want to be anymore.
Fortunately, they both begin with A.
Yeah.
So this is why we do this exercise, right? It's important to get these cells right.
Mm-hmm.
And by right, I mean they have to match what's actually in the story. And not just everything that's in the story or certain things that's in the story. It's the essentials of what's in that chapter. So the way I described this on Saturday was, this is the focal point of the chapter that everything is organized around. You only get one focal point per chapter because that's all the reader can remember. If there's 2 focal points in the chapter, they sort of can't figure out which one to remember. And it gets worse with 3 and 4. The other extreme is 0 focal points in a chapter, which means it doesn't deserve to be a chapter. So the focus of this chapter then is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is this. Yeah? Okay, good. So why don't we just do this exercise? Cece, can you start off reading 21, and then we'll do a round robin, and we'll look for continuity from this peak until the end.
Their plan takes shape, expose Lamashtu's true form and motivation to the demons, and liberate Anan, so she can rally gods to unite with demons. Ammit refuses Anubis's plan to devour.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how exciting is this?
10.
You don't seem convinced. Is it a 10 or is it a 10? Right?
The only reason I hesitate is I didn't know if you were asking me or not. Not because
right.
I'm not
I'm
confident.
asking you, Cece.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, let's try that again. How exciting is this?
10.
Why? Where's the drama?
Ammit refuses, which means there's conviction.
There's a big ass argument. Anubis is super powerful. What's Anubis's side of this argument? Which is what's missing from here. There's another side. What's Anubis going to say when Ammit refuses? Justin, thoughts?
I mean that depends at what point their relationship is here, and I think that they've come to, I think, what was it, chapter 2 before, that they kind of come to terms with their relationship. So I think the test of Anubis at that point, like, because he is also needing to see her in a different way for the first time in eons. And so I think it really depends on, does he react in a way that's respecting her decision, or does he fight her on it?
So what does he do, Kim?
He definitely pushes back, because the other thing too is, and I mean, she obeyed the gods for eternity, for this whole time, and now she's fighting back against him. So there's a little push and pull of the ego, but because they care about each other, she gets Anubis to see her side, and to accept that this is their chance to find new roles in the realm and to make themselves better than they were. So she kind of convinces Anubis to change his perspective on all of that too.
So what's Anubis's argument here?
Basically, it's like, you are the embodiment of justice. You are the devourer. Like, why now are you not seeing, like, basically this is what you were made to do? And that's when she's like, no, it's not.
So the way I like to think about these things, and I think it's very helpful, is to try to imagine the dialogue that's taking place at a meta level based on this little description, right? So, okay, we got to go kill Lamashtu. Anubis is like, great, eat her up. Why? To deliver righteousness? Because that's going to win them the battle? Or is there something else going on? Right? Because if it's the case that the battle is not in question, right, we're going to beat Lamashtu no matter what we do, then this decision takes on a different flavor, right? Then Anubis is saying, you got to give Lamashtu what she deserves, and she deserves to have her soul devoured. So this is an argument about justice. It's not about victory. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. So let's try to make this 21 entry more precise so that we can nail down this, what's at stake here. And then Justin, you want to do 22?
Do 22 now, or are we doing the other thing first?
What was the other thing?
You said nail it down.
Oh no, we're going to nail down
Sorry.
21, and now we're going to talk about 22.
All right. They find Pazuzu searching for Ammit and persuade him that Lamashtu cares for no demon. Just as he agrees to join them, the Galu imps seize Ammit and fly off to return her to Lamashtu and reveal their betrayal.
So whose betrayal is this?
Like the whole plan to bring down Lamashtu.
All the good bad guys. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, Justin, how exciting is this chapter?
It's I want to give it like a 7.5, and the reason why is because it can't be a 10, or else it would be the peak. So I'm gonna say, yeah, like a 7.5. Like, you get close to getting Pazuzu, who could be like a king piece in this match, but then like it's taken right before they get him. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's sort of two little parts here. There's the Pazuzu part, and then there's the Galu imps part. So maybe that's too much for one chapter. I think it's a little bit diffuse here. And it's hard to summarize this chapter, right? They convince Pazuzu. Anytime you have the word "and," you got to question it a little bit. They find Pazuzu, convince him to join the team, and Ammit gets taken away. So maybe it's emphasis, right? The taking away part just happened in the last sentence. Then it's a bridge to the next chapter, in which case it's fine, but then that should be made clear. So I'll do the next one. As hope fades, Pazuzu swoops in to rescue Ammit from the Galu imps and pledges his aid against Lamashtu. The Galus are chained to a tree in the outskirts, and the plan is set in motion. All right, so now it makes a little bit more sense, right? Pazuzu is not convinced in chapter 22. He decides in chapter 23, then goes ahead and rescues that. So these things are kind of mixed together. I don't know if it's going to need reorganizing or not, but just be aware that mixing it together may be an issue in comprehension. What do you guys think? Is there enough story in this chapter? Is it exciting, CC? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, good. CC, you want to do 24?
Under the guise of capture, Anubis and Emmett are brought before Lamashtu. Anubis stages insults at Ammit, prompting Ammit to declare her loyalty to Lamashtu, who believes the lie.
So this is kind of a setup. Justin, is there enough story here?
Yeah, this is the beginning of the plan. We're seeing the plan in motion now. Yeah, 100%.
The one thing I would encourage you to think about, is there any chance for this plan going wrong?
Yeah, that's something that I was thinking about reading this outline too, is I think the most interesting part of every Scooby-Doo episode is the when everything goes to shit, right? And they still come out on top somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Scooby-Doo is a great model for storytelling.
It's the same thing every episode, baby.
Exactly.
It's always great.
Kids love it. Okay. And it has legs, right? It has legs because, we get the story. And somehow there's stakes. Maybe not the more recent versions, but classic Scooby-Doo. All right, my turn. The devouring of Inanna's soul is set for the next day, staged publicly in the temple. Ammit feigns compliance. The night before, Anubis, Inanna, and the rest of the High Council gods are freed from prison by Isamu using the helm. So in a way, the setup is necessary because the gods are locked up. Am I correct? So you might want to allude to that earlier, right? So chapter 20, the critical part of the plan up here is that they need to set up this fakery to get the helm, whatever, to get them out of the prison. Now we have a little bit of A-Team MacGyver too. Sorry, I got lost. There we go. All right, enough story in this chapter. So this is a build-up before the big event. Good. CC, you want to do 26?
Lamashtu is furious as the gods escape, demanding to know how it happened. Ammit and Pazuzu feign ignorance until a dreamer brings the Galas found chained in the outskirts, who exposes the truth. Enraged, Lamashtu morphs into her true monstrous form and chases after Ammit.
Good. Enough story, CC?
Yeah, I think the only thing that could be added is Ammit's next steps. Like Ammit runs away, or because it ends mostly on a Lamashtu note. And I want to see the continuation of Ammit's agency.
Yeah, good.
I was just going to say, I feel like 26 and 27, based on these descriptions alone, could be one chapter.
Yeah, it's possible.
27 just feels like next steps, but I don't know if there's enough else mentioned here to be a full chapter. So I don't know if it's one chapter, but using what Cece said, like those two feel kind of like partnered together in a way.
Yeah, it's hard to tell from this if you're in the ballpark, right? So it's a matter of how each of these little points are developed. Not little points, but the points within each chapter are developed well enough and are important enough to make a full chapter. because you're stretching out this one event over 2 or 3 chapters. And then this is kind of this one here is kind of a morphing into her monstrous form is kind of setting up the final battle. And then the continuity is good. We have a good sense of what's happening. And then the question of, does this have enough substance to carry a chapter by itself? This whole section here. All right, my turn. While hiding from Lamashtu, Ammit tells Isamu to bring the second mirror to the temple court where gods and demons are gathered for Inanna's devouring. Thoughts? Justin, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, this is what I said, was just that, like, I think 26 and 27 could be one thing. I don't know if there's enough going on, at least in the description alone, for this to be a full chapter. And I hadn't really thought about it until what Cece said, but I agree that, like, I think those two things could be combined into one, theoretically.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please do.
I don't know, like, obviously there's a lot to consider in terms of word count. And 26 seems like a big chunk. So I'm curious, like, if it's in that 2 to 3,000. I wonder if the slight switch, instead of combining, if you are up against word count, is more so the chapter ends with Lamashtu's morphing into her form, and then the kickoff in 27 is the chase instead.
Yeah. So, Kim, add? You can talk. I mean, you can add things and ask questions.
No, that's helpful. That's like I said, I'm still kind of playing around a lot with just the length of the chapters, to making sure nothing's happening too quickly, to make sure nothing's like dragging on too long. Because when it comes to battle scenes too, like, God, I hate them. So absolutely hate them. But this is really helpful to kind of see where you guys are like, no, this would be dragged on too long, or this should be kind of condensed here. So this is really helpful.
I think you're great at writing battle scenes. Why do you hate them?
They're just so hard. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, swinging and hitting, and you're just like, how many times do we have to write this out?
But chapter 27 is an anti-battle scene.
Yeah, but I think the thing I struggle with battle scenes is how long to make them before you're like, okay, we get it, they're fighting. So,
all right. So our consensus is chapter 27 is a little light, I think.
yeah, and I feel like that is too. So I do need to work with that one a lot.
Okay. Justin, 28.
Lamashtu confronts Ammit and they fight, yet Ammit never devours her soul. Their fight erupts into the temple, where Isamu holds the second mirror, revealing that everyone had witnessed Lamashtu's true form and motives.
So what's the question that this chapter raises or begs?
What is her true motives?
Yeah. I mean, it's really important to get the second mirror in place, but we don't realize this until now. So you sort of have to, foreshadowing isn't the right word, but you have to set up these things, because this adds a whole layer onto the story that we're not seeing before, that Lamashtu has a true form and motives. And who are they revealing it to? My guess is it's not just the team of rebels, it's the whole world, right? Kind of a mass broadcast kind of thing. All right, good. A battle erupts as demons side with the gods against Lamashtu and her few loyalists. Inanna pins Lamashtu and commands Ammit to devour her soul, but Ammit refuses. So we had this discussion before. This seems important. So I guess the way I would ask you to approach this is, what is Lamashtu, pardon me. So Inanna says, devour her soul, presumably because Lamashtu is about to overpower Anana. What does Ammit say beyond just refusing? That's going to be the real focal point of this chapter. So what does she say, Kim?
It's basically that, we're no longer defined by our old roles, and it is time for everyone to recognize this in the realm. We're no longer gods. We're no longer demons. Like, we're not defined by these statuses, by the mortals anymore. So why are we doing that to ourselves? It's time for growth, and it's time for change, and it's time for us to be better. So it's kind of that, but she's saying it to everyone, to like the gods and the demons and the monsters and everybody.
Good. And maybe you preface it with, we agreed to this, we're sticking to the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then that drives the thematic point home. Very good. All right. CC, you want to do the last one for today?
Sometime after, Ammit leads a meeting where gods and demons confront their pasts and work toward a better future together. Even Lamashtu and Gallus, chained and guarded, are part of this effort. Nothing is perfect, but gods and demons begin learning to go and coexist in the realm.
Good. And then, so this is a lot, right? This could be spread out into 1 or 2 chapters, or maybe 3. So that's, if you're short on story, you want to bring it to a more gradual, lasting conclusion, then this would be the place to expand it.
Okay.
Overall, it's really good, but this is the kind of work you have to do to construct your novel, and in this case, especially the peak and the resolution, to make it land properly. And then landing properly is the payoff we get from setting up the story, meeting the reader's expectations, having it peak, and then bringing it to the satisfying conclusion. All right, thoughts, Kim?
No, my biggest concern was I didn't want anything to feel forced, and I don't feel like anything you guys are feeling is feeling that way. Especially when it comes to like character motivation, I don't want anything to feel just forced, and hopefully that's not okay. Good.
Did anyone think if things were forced? Forced in what sense, Kim?
Just like, I don't want to say like it's what is it, like the ex machina deal where it's like this solution is coming out of nowhere and everything's ending. So I just wanted to make sure that none of it wasn't coming across that way, and that one thing was leading to another cohesively. And it's hopefully sounds like it is.
So everyone's shaking their heads. No, it is not ex machina
Okay.
at all.
And then can I just ask your guys' opinion on the title? Because I listed a couple at the top because I'm really struggling with those. And I didn't know if any of those were speaking to you guys or what your thoughts were on those.
I highlighted my favorites. Hold on. More Than a Monster, We Were Gods, and then The Soul Devourer. I liked all of them. What?
That's 3. You got to pick one.
I only can pick one. Well, I like all of them, but the only reason I didn't like Between Gods and Demons is because I feel like that sounded like a romance. Does that make sense? So the other ones, and then this, I guess I could maybe make an argument for why not to use The Soul Devourer, because you have humor, and that one is a big like epic's not the right word, but I don't know, it has a lot of connotations, so it might not be the right one for the humor.
Justin, what do you think?
I think you got a lot of good options here, Kim. I actually feel like maybe like a little bit more noodling, you might be able to come up with something just like very just like peak. I like The Soul Devourer, but I agree with CC on that. And then just like title wise, I like We Were Gods. I think is my favorite of the ones here, but I don't know if it does enough to like really describe like what exactly is happening, like what this is about. But as a title that grabs my attention, We Were Gods is my favorite. Like, grabs my attention pretty well.
Good. Yeah, I'm drawn to that one too. I do think it's hard, right? We don't want we want to be resonant, but not too generic. Titles are really hard, but you definitely got a lot to work with here. I mean, you got a lot to work with We Were Gods, and the question is, can you make it more specific to this story? Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but it's worth entertaining a few variations on this that may be more specific. For some reason, that's the one that resonates. Resonance is a very tricky phenomenon. No psychologist, no sociologist, nobody has ever be able to explain how psychological resonance works. But you know it when you see it, to use the cliche. All right. Any last thoughts, Kim?
No. We Were Gods was the OG title, so it does make me happy that you guys like it. My only concern was that because Ammit's not a god, but I was like, I don't know if that's really gonna throw anyone completely off. I feel like it gets the message across fine enough. So I might just tinker around with that one still, but it makes me happy that the original is still a favorite. So
good. Sounds good, right?
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Excellent. All right, good work, everybody. We'll meet back in 2 weeks. I think we have our assignments. Any questions or thoughts? Nope. All right, good. I will see you all soon.
Barty delivers the tools, guidance, and support you need to produce compelling novels. Our well-researched and thoroughly tested approach includes our minimum complete story, a 90-second exercise that keeps your writing on track while fueling creativity. Barty Publishability Index, a 23-dimension checklist that offers attainable goals and provides actionable feedback. And our brand new comprehensive character developer that helps you construct unforgettable characters. Come see for yourself at Bartsy.com today. Try our workshop or enter our first chapter contest. Then, when you're ready, Elite Membership delivers writing groups, personal coaching, and a curated community. With Bartsy, your work will captivate everyone, from agents to publishers, and, most importantly, your readers.